and welcome to Get Funded Live number 4. This is our 4th session of Get Funded Live, where we look to bring visions and transform them into real projects, real investment, real bankable projects, and of course sharing the knowledge and the wisdom and the expertise that's required to make that transition and that transformation. We are joined, I'm really excited for this week's session because we are joined by what you could say possibly is the first truly authentic voice of the agricultural community, particularly the ranching community that we've had on the Get Funded Live so far. We have had Ernest, who is the godfather of the aquaculture industry. We've had Mike Deacon, who is the king of finance in the UK. And we have had Effie, that is the queen, the CFO that is in the know. But this week, we have Emilie Schroder, who is a powerhouse in ranching in the United States. She spent a lot of time out on the road. She's just back from a tour where she's met an awful lot of farmers and ranchers and shared stories and supported them in the way she does. She's a powerhouse in terms of graphic design. Emilie, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Eamon. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for coming on. I know it's still, it's 9 p.m., just gone 9 p.m. your time. So thanks for kicking your day off with us. It's 4 p.m. here in Ireland. So look at Emilie, we wrote an article about you earlier in the week, and it was titled Bridging the Gap Between Two Worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And the two worlds we're talking about are the two worlds of graphic design and agriculture and ranching. I think that's really interesting because from our point of view, it's a very, very similar thing in terms of we're bridging that gap between the worlds of agriculture and the worlds of finance, right? But from your point of view, in terms of we're talking about graphic design, right? And we're talking about farming, ranching, agriculture, we're talking about bridging those two worlds. Why is that important?
You know, Eamon, it's important for a lot of reasons. Let's go further back for a second. So growing up in the agriculture industry, I grew up on a ranch. My dad was the head cow boss at it. And so I always grew up in that industry. But I won't always say that there has been the best marketing or the best voice in it. And when I went to school for graphic design, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to go into, but I knew I missed agriculture. So I knew I needed to come back to it. And when I say bridging that gap, I just mean that there is so much of our story that we can share and tell, but it needs to be done in the right way. And I think we all know that. And there is so many ways to go about it. But I truly believe that agriculture is one of the greatest stories to tell. And especially since I have kind of more of the ranching background, I believe ranching has a phenomenal story. And in bridging that gap, for me, what that means is I want to help tell that story in the right way with the skill set that I have.
Right. And I mean, you and I mean, when we talk about stories in agriculture, be it farming, be it ranching, or be it some other sector, right? We're not talking really about a story of one person or one farm or even one family or one generation. I mean, you know, I come from a family of generational farmers. We could trace it back to the 1800s. And I mean, we know we've been there a lot longer. I know a lot of the people that you talk to and a lot of the people in your world would be generational farmers as well. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about a story of business. We're not talking about a story of one person or even one family. This is legacy. This is generations of work, blood, sweat, and tears. And if you link that in with, you know, if you look at it from the point of view of history and major events in history, if you look at it from the point of view of the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom when that all kicked off, right? If you look at any major leap in population, okay, with the exception maybe of the one that we're in now, the timeline that we're in now, right, where that was predominantly brought about by pharmaceuticals and advancements in medicine and all that kind of stuff. Outside of that, every other point in history, you will find that it was precursed by an advancement in agriculture or an advancement in farming. And a lot of the stories that you're talking about, right, and the families that we're talking about, it was their ancestors, their forefathers that would have been at the front end of that in terms of driving on things like the tractor, things like the seed drill, things like harvesters, combine harvesters, right? All these kind of things, even, you know, and I know I'm talking more there probably on the crop side of things and the ranching side of things, right? But genetics, for example, right, which is the big one in ranching at the moment, right? One of the big ones in ranching, and kind of feed is another one. The nutrition composition of feed, which I know be very much in line with your side of things. But I mean, with all of that, traditionally came a lot of investment. And when I talk about investment, I'm not actually, exclusively or specifically talking about money. Okay. Um, One of the biggest investments are, as the financial industry likes to call it, sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
So sweat equity is something that farmers and ranchers know all too well, right? And it's something that's kind of parcel with that territory. Okay. But from the people that you deal with, the stories that you collected, right, and the experiences that you shared with them, in my mind, there's a bigger need than ever for an investment from outside of the agricultural community, which has always come forward in a time of need.
Mhm.
It always seems to have come forward, but it seems to be slow in this timeline in terms of coming forward. What does that mean from your point of view in terms of the people that you've connected with, the families you've connected with, the stories you have gathered? What does that mean for those people? What does that mean for that legacy that they have inherited, the legacy that they are responsible for? And in terms, particularly from the point of view of the burden to ensure that that legacy is still there for them to hand down to the next generation, right? And ultimately, what does that mean for everyone else in society?
In my travels, I've been able to travel to many different, it's generationally like 3 or 4 generation family ranches, dairies. So they're long-standing areas, long-standing communities, more or less, and they have had to be extremely innovative in what they're doing. Everything, especially in today's economy, you and I had this conversation, that there usually has to be some kind of supplement to your business. No matter what industry you're in, it's not just agriculture, it's something else as well. We're always having to be innovative with the ways that we're going about things. And when I've been able to travel out to these different ranches or dairies, I've seen a lot of different and new maneuvers that people are trying that are either around their cattle or not necessarily around their cattle. I've been to places that they do direct to consumer selling their beef, or there's other places that are utilizing manure for power, for energy. And I've been to several places, and this is very pertinent in my area, is utilizing hunting guides, just because we have a lot of like state and BLM land near us. So utilizing those hunting guides and that just brings in a little bit more, it's a little bit more lucrative, and it helps secure your operation. And that's also what's going to keep your legacy going, right? We have to be smart about what we're doing fiscally, but there's so many different ways to go about it. There isn't just a one answer fits all either.
And I think that that's an interesting point, right? The one answer fits all, because I think if you look at it from a regulatory point of view, now I know we are far more regulated over here in the EU than you guys are in the US, right? And arguably Australia and that kind of side is possibly even more regulated. We are, right? They're definitely on par, okay? So I know it's maybe a slightly different issue on this side of the world, but it is still an issue in the States. I know regulation, has tried, look at it, the point of regulation is there to make food safe and to make food secure. Okay, because if you look at it historically, most territories in the world follow the cycle of war and famine, right? War and famine, war and famine, war and famine, and that's been a big part of the EU, of the focal point of creating the programs that fund agriculture, creating the regulations that fund agriculture, and it's all about food security. And that's in its concept is a good idea, right? Well, if we can secure food, we should. Okay, but with that comes a lot of boxes, right? And a lot of boxes that people need to fit in. You've got things like intensive farming, single crop type farming, or single animal type farming, all that kind of stuff. Where if you look at kind of pre-regulation eras, most farmers are mixed farms. Right, most agricultural enterprises were livestock and crops, cereals, market garden, vegetables, all different kinds of things. That was very much, and it was very much that direct to consumer type of market more so than we have now, right? Um, or at least it was a shorter supply chain to the consumer, shall we say? So I suppose from your point of view, in terms of what you're seeing out there, are you seeing a swing a swing back to more of that kind of a model where um, regulation, like are farmers looking for regulation to ease off now? Are they looking for, look, we are the people that have been doing this for hundreds of years. We know how to do it, right? Let us do it, or at least consult with us when you make the regulations, right? Include us more in the conversation because respectfully, policymakers, you are not the guys, the caretakers of this land and the caretakers and the guardians of our society for 100 years as far as food is concerned.
I can't speak on behalf of everybody because, I've heard a lot of different perspectives on this. I do believe that a big concern for us right now, and I think that this is happening globally, is just land loss. Agriculture is constantly losing land loss, and with the amount of population increase here in the U.S., and I mean, I see it in my area. There are houses going up every single day, and we're losing more and more land. So something like that, of that nature, then I mean, we are doing everything that we can from the ranching side to I mean, I know plenty of people that they are voicing this concern and other concerns. It's not just about that, but no, they are. And I think we want to have a voice. We want to make sure that we're pushing. Um, and I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, and I mean it's because and I do think it's a bigger issue over here. I mean, we've had a lot of cases over here where regulation has ultimately, you could argue, in certain cases, has made certain verticals within agriculture, shall we say, less secure, right? Which is counterproductive. You kind of look at some of the cases that have happened, you go, well, if they just consulted the farmers, right, none of that would have happened, you know? So it is very interesting. But let's bring it back to graphic design. And when we talk about, graphic design, a lot of people think of logos and websites, right? But that's, brochures or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's really about storytelling, right? It's about getting a communication across. What story are you coming across more and more frequently, more and more consistently from, the ranchers, the farmers? What story keeps coming up, keeps coming up, keeps coming up that you feel needs to be told?
So I recently sat in on a conversation where somebody had mentioned Red Bull. I think we're all familiar with Red Bull and their great marketing. And Red Bull is the reason that they have good marketing is because it's not necessarily just Red Bull like in your face. It's always like an activity, something that they've sponsored, and it's always something crazy that's happening. And somebody had mentioned, why can't we, like on the agriculture side, do something like that? Like, why are we not showcasing what we're doing? And I think for me, that is something that I'm trying to do. I am trying to put agriculture out there. I want to showcase it. I want to showcase our industry because I think what I personally have seen is, I don't want to say a lack of, because I do see some people who try very hard to tell their stories, but I think that telling the whole story of agriculture, not shying away from it, and I think it's more important now than ever. People have had, just with social media and everything, I mean, with changes in technology, even just within the last 10 years, people have had more access to information than ever before, and instantly and quickly. And I think that is, we can take that and we can look at it like it's a scary thing, or we can say, no, we're going to showcase our industry because it's important, because we are actually feeding the world.
And I think that's huge. I don't think it actually, that is huge. And I think that is one of the biggest disconnects between consumers and farmers is that, and I mean, to anyone that comes from a farming background or lives even in an agricultural area, may not be directly involved themselves. I mean, it almost feels like, how could this possibly be? But there's this disconnect where, you ask them, well, where does your steak come from? The shop. Where does your milk come from? Shop. Where does your bread come from? Shop. Right.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this disconnect, and the farmers seem to be like this disgruntled bunch of people that live out in the middle of nowhere,
Uh-huh.
right? And I don't know what they really do. There's some kind of farmers, they grow stuff, and it's like, well, I actually make that steak. You
Yeah.
know, they make that, they make the grains that go into that bread. They make the milk, they make the milk, So
And to your point, it's so much more than that. I know you've seen some LinkedIn posts that I've made. And, I've had people question, the beef industry and whatnot. But it's not just about meat. Because for me, this is what I always love to tell people is that cattle provide so much more than just meat. I mean, you want to think about any kind of supplement or plastics. I mean, there is an assortment of things that cattle provide to, and people just don't realize. So we're consuming cattle and other animals every single day in many ways, much more than just by eating them.
absolutely. I mean, beef tallow and skincare,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So,
Cosmetics. Yep, right there.
so it's in and I, you might, I've kind of stopped doing them, or well, I've started doing them a little bit more, but the making a meal of it posts there. I mean, we've dived into things like cars.
Mhm.
How involved farmers are in cars, right? How involved farmers are in the production of computers, right? How involved they are in the production of clothing, textiles, all this kind of stuff. I mean, a farmer was involved in this, right? A farm, whatever you're wearing right now, right? More than likely, unless it's a pure 100% polymer based piece of clothing, right? A farmer was involved. Okay. So it's multifaceted. It runs through, every strand really of, there's very little I think you could find. There are some things out there. There's very little out there I think that you could say a farmer, did not touch in some way, shape or form. So what I really want to get into next is in terms of, I mean, that, those stories and that kind of idea that they are in everything we do, right? How can farmers, how can ranchers, or how can people involved in the supply chain from source to plate or close or whatever, what can people do to tell those stories?
Well, from a marketing perspective, and my current career right now is specifically in digital marketing. So I'm a big believer in be upfront and be genuine, be authentic in your story. I know a family that's locally here, and they have a sheep operation. They sell the wool, and then they receive so much of that profit, and it's amazing because they tell that story through that company, and they utilize it on social media, and they're telling it every single day. I can go to that company's website or their social media, and I can actually see my friend showcased in a video where he is herding the sheep, and telling that story in the most authentic and genuine way is so impactful. And I think you can do that through any platform, really. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can go YouTube. I mean, you can make websites. I mean, and it's actually relatively simple. You and I were just talking about how there's so many resources. There's utilizing, I know that I have the skill set to do this, but I understand that not every rancher or farmer is going to have that. So there's places like Canva. You can utilize websites such as Squarespace or Wix that are very intuitive and actually very easy. And I know that everybody knows somebody too that can help with marketing, but I really push digital marketing because in a way, digital marketing is kind of the newer word of mouth. It is so easy to spread and communicate and share that story. And you know what? It costs $0. You can just put
And
it.
there are so many resources out there now where we're back into sweat equity, right? A little bit of learning, maybe how to use the tools,
Yeah.
whatever, but they're free from a monetary point of view. They're free. I know Mike Deacon is tuned in because he put a note in saying, sorry, he was late. Mike, not sure if you're still with us, and the stream is usually about 30 seconds behind. But Mike, if you are still with us, put a comment in here because I'd be interested to get your insight on this. Mike was on with us a couple of weeks ago, and he is the king of finance in the UK. But what I'm going to go into next is, how important are these stories when we talk about raising finance, be it through investors or be it through a lender. How important do you think, or do you feel that these stories are in that journey in terms of getting the buy-in, getting the connection, developing a relationship with the financial industry as a whole? Mike, if you're still tuning in, weigh in on that because I'd love to get your insight on it. But Emily, from your point of view, how important do you think it is to tell those stories to make a connection with the world of finance?
Well, I think that there's a couple ways you can go about it, and look at it. And let me put it this way. In telling the story, as I said earlier, it is creating your authentic and genuine self. You need to be able to put that out there to showcase who you really are and kind of what you're selling, because it's not just about the product that you're making or supplying, whether that's beef or chickens or whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's also you. You are your business. You are the service. You are the product. So being able to tell your story is going to be a big sell as well. People work with people. All right. We work with animals, but we work directly with people, especially when it comes to finance. I think that that is important for that reason. But I also think that in order to best move forward for your business, I think that can you rephrase one more time on
Well, I think you've actually kind of hit it on the head there. I think, right? Because we're talking, what we're looking to get to here is how important are these? Because finance has this perception of it's a world of hard nosed business, right? It's all business, it's all money, it's all balance sheets, it's all
yeah,
cash flow, it's all, money, 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 right? And like it is, right? That's the industry, right? In the same way that ranching is all about cattle,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's the business they're in. But
yep,
I think, the nail on the head there in terms of when we said people,
yep,
okay? Because when we talk about raising finance, right? I say very often, right? Investors or lenders, they will not put money into a vision. And
yep,
most people out there looking to raise money are looking to raise money for a vision. You
yep,
might have a business plan, you might have an executive summary, you might even have your financials and everything else. That still doesn't mean it's any that it's not that it's a project. That doesn't mean it's a project. It could very well, and more often than not, is still a vision, right? And what really and truly, if we get down to it, what takes a vision into a project is people, right?
yep,
Because it might require skill sets, it might require various expertise, someone like you to come in and aid in telling the story of both the farm, the family, but the vision of what they're looking to create, and the financial story as well. We spoke last week with Effie about how Effie turned numbers into stories, right? So there's always a story to tell. But I think the crucial part is people. And we say this so often, right? Investors hate to see a husband and wife business, right? As in, there's nothing wrong with a husband
yeah,
and wife, but as in, it's me and my husband or it's me and my wife,
mhm,
okay? And we're going to do everything, and it's all of us, and it's
yep,
that's us, right? You are the cornerstone of the
mhm,
project, okay? And you are the, I mean, if you ain't right as a person, right, and then nothing is right.
yeah,
But the people is so important because nothing and farmers know this well. You can achieve very little on your own, right? Look when it comes to harvest time, right? Or when it comes to if you got to move cattle from this field to that field various times a year, whatever you're moving into new pastures, you ain't gonna do it on your own, right?
nope, nope,
So in terms of telling that, and we're running out, I can see here on the back, we're running out of time, and we could talk about
yeah,
this for forever, right? But in terms of telling that story about the people, right? How can what can be done if you're a rancher, you're a farmer, you're in agriculture, you're looking to raise funds, and you've got your business plan, you've got your executive summary, you've got you, and that's all business, and you're ticking all those boxes. You've got offtake agreements, right? You've got everything.
mhm,
And you've got maybe a list of names, right? Of, Emily's involved, Eamon's involved, this person's involved, and it's just Emily's the marketing person. Eamon is looking after documentation, someone else is looking after this, and someone else. What can be done to transform that list of names into a story where it will showcase and highlight the human being, not the qualification, right, but or the experience, but the human being. How can they showcase that human being to potential investors or lenders?
By, I mean, like we've talked about, by displaying them and who they are and in their business and pushing all of that for utilizing the information that they do have, and I come at it from, like we've talked about, from that marketing, digital marketing perspective. But I do think that it is your way to showcase everything that you have, whether it's the numbers, whether it's the lifestyle, whether it's the history behind it. It can all be displayed right there. You can literally put yourself, it's like a resume. You can put yourself right there and say that this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is where we are going. And with that being said, you also have to be able to take risk. And that's just part of it. You have to be able to get people involved. You have to take risk, and you have to get yourself out of your comfort zone. You can't move forward. You can't grow without growing pains. And there are going to be things that you're uncomfortable with, but you're just going to have to take the risk and talk to people and put yourself out there and showcase your business in the best way that you possibly can.
Yeah, and this just came to mind as you're saying this, right? So let me ask you a question, right? About you, right? So your skill set from a marketing point of view, a graphic design point of view, a storyteller point of view, it's very high end, right? You could work in any industry you wanted to. I mean, we talked about Red Bull, which is essentially a
Yeah.
marketing company, right? That's what they are. Everyone thinks they're a drinks company. They're not. They're a marketing company, right? You could go work your skill set. You could go work for Red Bull, right? Coca Cola is another one. You could say that they are a drinks company more so than Red Bull, but I mean, from a marketing point of view, one of the best marketing, best top end marketing, Nike, top end marketing, right?
Yeah.
You could go work for any of these companies and make a lot of money. And I could be wrong, but probably make more money than you're making now, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
In the industry you're in, right? Because
Yeah.
because it's an industry that traditionally doesn't value it as much as other industries.
Yeah.
So why have you decided to take such a high level skill set and dedicate it and yourself to agriculture?
Because, and personally, I have always felt that there is a bias against people in agriculture that, oh, we don't have the right marketing. We're not presenting ourselves. We're, quote unquote, the dumb farmer types. I've always kind of felt that we had that, but I think that's a strength. I think that taking something like that, that's a biased against you, and using it to better the community. Agriculture is my community. It is something I believe in, and it is something that we need. And I want to change the way that we market, that we push ourselves, that we advocate for ourselves, because that's the only way we're going to really move forward. Is we have to be more open and upfront about who we are, what we're doing, the kind of industry that we're in. And the worst part is it's a great story, and I'm not saying that there are bad storytellers out there, because there's not. I have met some very phenomenal people who are great at telling the agriculture story, and it's much better than it ever used to be. But my goal has always been to change that bias against farmers and ranchers and say, hey, we're the ones putting food on the table. We're the ones putting clothes on your backs. We're the ones supplying your lives. We're giving you, the consumer, something to work with. And I think that that's the most powerful story that I can possibly share.
Well, here's an idea, and I'm going to throw this out on a live, and this is being recorded, right? So we're both going on the record here. So I might be just about to make a fool of myself. I don't know, right? But here's maybe a potential idea. Maybe it would be a good idea to get some of those farmers onto a platform like this to tell their stories.
Mm-hmm. I do. I think that it's very important to share their stories. And I do that through the company that I work for, West by Feed Products. We're utilizing YouTube and our social media to share the stories of our customers, our dealers, and tell their stories through our platform, and also their resources. They're people that are sharing their story, literally giving away free information and it's important. It's very important.
Well, let's have a conversation about that. Let's put a pin on that for the minute, but let's you and I have a conversation about that and see what we can do on the Statera side, the Get Funded side, to bring those stories forward, because I think they are really, I know they are really important, as much as you know they are really
Yeah.
important. And it's really important that I think consumers and end users or end consumers of these produce get to hear these stories and find out what these farmers are really about. And they're not just these crazy people that live in the hills or out in the middle of nowhere, right? They're not these, whatever, right? So
Yeah.
let's work on that. But we're out of time, and I mean, we like every other Get Funded live we've done, it always feels like we're cutting it short. But Emily, will you come back for in a couple of months' time, wherever we pick this up conversation where we left on? Will you come back and join us for another Get Funded down the line?
Oh, yes, of course.
Perfect. And in the meantime, guys, if you're looking for upcoming Get Funded events or upcoming Get Funded broadcasts, you can find them at the website www.stateraagri.com. They're all listed up there. And if you've missed any of the previous ones, or indeed if you've missed this one, they are all there on the website to watch back. They're all there on YouTube as well. You can find them on the website www.stateraagri.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.